The topic today is my worth is not, it is not based on net worth. So here are my key takeaways. First, key takeaway is that the wealth effect is rooted in the illusion of net worth. The second key takeaway is, this is the formula for net worth. So net worth is the value of your possessions minus your debt. Third key takeaway, this is the wealth effect. So when your property value go up, your primary home goes up, people feel that their net worth also went up. Because why? The property, our primary home, went up. Remember, majority of the people, their biggest expense is their primary home. So if their primary home is their biggest number one expense or their biggest asset, then they feel that their net worth went up because their asset, their primary home, went up. Now, vice versa, if their primary home, their biggest asset, went down, the property value declined, then many people feel that their net worth also goes down. Lesson number 4, Robert Kiyosaki feels net worth is worth less. And he gave 3 reasons. These are the reasons. This is the first reason, and that's number 5 lesson. Net worth is often an estimate based on people's opinion, and it is not based on facts. Now, for example, if your primary home's value, the primary home's value is an estimate, okay? Now, we would only know the true price of our primary home only when we sell it, only when somebody buys it, when it is sold. So therefore, this means that a lot of homeowners, a lot of people overinflate their home's estimated value. And so only when the property, our primary home, gets sold, will we know 2 facts, the real price and the real value. We can overestimate the property. We can put so much into our property, but if nobody buys that property because either it's in a bad location or it's so secluded that that nobody lives there, who else would buy your property? So when we buy properties, it's very important to have multiple exits, because why? If a lot of buyers want to buy that property, then the value, they would compete on your property. So the value when you sell it goes higher. So only when the property is sold can we know the real price and the real value of our property. And the problem is, according to Robert, is that many of us, many homeowners, have borrowed against the perceived value of our primary home. And we may owe more than what we can sell it for. And this was felt during the 2008 housing crisis, the housing crash, because we owed more and people could not sell it for what it was worth. So either they sold it for less, some would even went into foreclosure because nobody was buying it, some went into bankruptcy because there was a lot of houses that was going down and nobody wants to buy, declining value, because why? They're thinking that it's still going to go down. So people went into bankruptcy because they could not find any buyers. So lesson number 6. This is the second reason why net worth is worth less, according to Robert. Net worth is often based upon possessions with declining value. So, example, when you fill or when I fill out a credit application or a financial statement, I list all my assets. So, in the asset column, I list all my possessions. That could be your business suits, your business shoes, your business ties. You could also list down your cars as well in the asset column. Now, we all know that business suits, business ties, business shoes have very little value, and used cars have less value than new cars. Lesson number 7. The third reason why net worth is worth less is that net worth going up. So if your net worth is going up, it's often caused by the dollar going down in value. So when your net worth is going up, it is often caused by the dollar going down in value. So example, some of the appreciated value of our primary home is because of the decline in the value of our money, in this case, the dollar. Lesson number 8. In other words, our primary home, the primary home's value is not really, when our primary home's value going up, it's not really based on the value going up. It just means that we need more money, we need more dollars to buy the same house. Why? Lesson number 9, because the government and the central banks keep injecting more money, more funny money, they call it, into the system. And why do they do that? That's lesson 10. It is to keep the economy afloat, okay, to prevent us from going into depression. And second, to keep the feel-good illusion of prosperity alive. So those are my 10 key takeaways. Let me know in the comment section below what your key takeaway is. So stay tuned for more Alka and Ria show.
Thank you, Ria.
Thank
you. That was, yeah, wow. That was, yeah, nuggets. And friends, I hope you were taking notes, and I hope each and every time you are taking notes, because what Ria shared, I was taking notes. And Ria, when you talked about, I think it was point number 8, and you talked about the value, how the perceived value, like your home. So say, for example, I have a home that it's a corner property, and it's just been built. It's absolutely gorgeous. So the home, the value, how does the market, how is it determined that the homes in that area, do they automatically go up in value? How does the value, how do we know? How do we see that?
Also, disclaimer, I am not an appraiser, okay?
But no, but roughly, yeah.
Yes.
Roughly, how is it?
Based on my experience, and this is just my opinion, it is the properties, when we buy property, we get an appraisal, okay? It's a third party, is a certified appraiser. So what the appraiser does is he shops within a certain mile radius. So let's say, for example, within 30-mile radius, he looks at the comparable of the houses around it, the square footage, the year when it was built, is it updated, or is it brand new, or is it old? So he looks at about the same square footage of the property. For example, in your case, it doesn't matter if it's corner or not, but he looks at about the same square footage of your home, about the same square footage, and he compares it within 30-mile radius. He also compares if it's updated or if it's brand new. So those are the things that they looked at. So when we have a primary home, it is based on the comparable market. Now let's compare that, let's contrast that to a multifamily apartments, or even like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 apartment units, 8, 10 apartments. So they are based not on the home, but they are based on the net operating income, because that's a business now. When you have multifamily apartments, the property's value is based on the net operating income. So
Right.
very different if you're a primary home who has a big home compared to a multifamily home, because the appraisal of that primary home is based on your neighboring primary home. So for example, and this is what happened to my condominium when we bought it during the crash. So the crash happened in the US in 2008. We bought it around 2009, 2010. So my primary home's value was 325 when I bought it, okay? That was at the time of the crash, 2009, 2010. Now, when I appraised it 5-6 years after that, so 2017, my property's value, the same square footage, the same home, my property's value went down to 185. Automatically, I lost like a half of
Oh,
my
wow.
equity. That is
Yeah.
true.
Wow.
Because why? It was based on comparable market within
Comparables.
certain mile radius. Just because I'm paying it on time, just because I updated, let's say I put brand new appliances, I put new flooring there, does not mean that I'm able to recoup all the money that I put into the property. Because why? If I have neighbors that are that has the inability to pay down their principal and interest, either they go into foreclosure or bankruptcy, and this happened in 2008 housing crisis. They could not pay it, so their property went back to the bank. So now, from a 500,000 value at that 2008, now 5 years, 6 years from that, the property is now worth half. 100. You could buy it for dollars, like 150,000. Brand new, built in 2007, brand new. Can you imagine brand new?
Right.
You can buy it for 130, 120. Because why? Because that's the value. That's how the comparables is made, right? When you have single family homes, your primary home.
So it's always good to do comparables. It's always good to do comparables because one building to another, if you're looking to that and how much that is worth, how much you're going to pay for that, it's always good to do comparables.
Well, better yet, it is good to have multifamily apartment versus home, because it is not based on comparables, but it is based on your multifamily apartment's income. But if your primary home, yes, it is based on comparables. That's the reality of it. So even if you put much into the property, even if you put a pool, you may not be able to recoup. You have to understand that whatever money you sink into your primary home, if you put a garage, if you put in a swimming pool, you may not be able to recoup that money at some point in time. Let's say, like right now, right? Inflation it's very high. There's recession. So when there's recession, people could lose their jobs. In fact, a lot of people are already laying off. Big employers here are laying off. So what happens when people do not have the job? Then they could not afford to pay down their mortgage. So there's going to be a lot of renters, because they're going to ditch their home because they could not afford to pay it. There's going to be foreclosure and bankruptcy. And guess what? Where would those people live? Of course, they still need a place to live. So either they go back to their family and share a room, or they downsize to an apartment. So we have to contrast it. A single family home is based on comparables. A multifamily apartments, a business, is based on the net operating income. So you and I have apartments. So if we have apartments, those people that were buying homes and could not pay for it, they're going to be our tenants now. Because why? They gave up on their mortgage to rent 1,500, to rent 1,800, to rent on 1,200, because now it's more affordable than paying a big mortgage. So that's why the book, Robert Kiyosaki says, our primary home is not an asset. It is in fact a liability. to define asset and liability. An asset puts money into our pocket. So that's true for multifamily apartments. If you have paying tenants, that puts money into your pocket. A liability like a primary home, it takes out money away from our pocket. Now, I do understand that it's an American dream, or it's your dream. It's everybody's dream. But in the beginning, to start with, we have to we have to educate ourselves before we deploy that money. But we have to understand that if you do want to buy your primary home, don't put too much of your money into that primary home, because you may not be able to recoup it.
And
now,
also, sorry, Ria, I just had a thought. So when you talk about the primary home, and also what came to my mind is, if you're looking to upgrade your home, like add a pool, do anything to like enhance it a little bit,
yes,
then okay, so and if the economy is at a downturn like it is in the recession, inflation, etc., so then what's going to happen is that the value is going to go down. It doesn't matter the upgrade that you've done, but it's going to go down in value.
Yes, that is correct, because if people are losing money, they either go into foreclosure or bankruptcy. You are affected. Your primary home's value is affected by your surrounding neighborhood. Now, given we need time, right? Because of inflation, the property's value would go up, but you have to understand it went up because of the dollar going down, and that's called inflation. So let's say you have the time, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, 40 years from now. Let's say that home that you bought is here, right? This is now. Let's say that home that you bought is 1 million. Now, this is time. Let's say 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. That $1 million worth of property with a pool is not 1 million 50 years from now. Of course, it's going to be worth. Why? Because of inflation. So that's the perceived value, where there's an appreciation. Why? Because the dollar value went down. So when you have the time with you, right? Of course, it's going to be way higher, but you need the time, though. You need time, 20 years, 30 years before you could see the property's value going up. But if you have multifamily apartments, you don't need, then 30, 40, 50 years from now, even it's going to be more expensive.
Exactly. But even now too, like, I mean, the rental prices, the rental market is going to be strong. The renters, it's going to be strong, right? So like, if we take, for example, tenants, say for example, I'm sorry, we're just going to queue here, but one final question. So, when it comes to the tenants, and if they can afford to pay, because, the rental market is going to increase in price, it's going to increase, the market is going to be strong. So what's going to happen then to the tenants if they can afford to pay?
So you mean if they cannot afford to pay their rent?
Right, if they can't afford to pay.
So what happens then is, majority of the times, they either downsize. So for example, if they're living in a Class A property and they're paying $5,000 for a Class A, then they're going to downsize to a Class B or Class C property. So that means from a $5,000 of rent, they can go down to $3,000, $2,000, or $1,500 of rent. Yeah. Some tenants, what they do is they either look for another tenant, another partner to share the rooms, especially if they're renting a big home. Then they look for partners to help, split the cost between 2 or 3 people. Some of the renters or tenants, what they do is either they move out of the rental and they move into their family members, if their family members would allow them to live with them. But when you live with another family, right, you could only live for a few months, or at some point in time you would need space. It only works majority of the time, right? It only works for a few months, but then you would need to separate, or you need to be independent and
Yeah,
look
you need
for
to buy
another.
your own place. Yeah.
Yes, you need to find your own place. Yes, that is correct. So now what happens then? You got go back to renting either at the much cheaper Class C, Class D property to be able to have your own space, your own home. But what they usually do if they could not afford is they downsize to a much cheaper rent.
Right. That's great. Ria, thank you so much for sharing. And guys, thank you so much for always tuning in and always, coming back each and every week to listen, learn, and grow, because this is where it's at. We want to impart knowledge to you so that you take it out into the world, you apply what Ria has taught you, what she teaches you. And that's what it's all about. You see, knowledge alone is great, but knowledge without the implementation is where it's at. So, make the rest of the day the best of the day. Go out, implement what Ria has said, and keep on, because it's consistency. The more you keep on applying it, the more better you're going to get. And this is what we want.